You know what, Webster? Why don't you go in and put on your pajamas, and then we'll get in the tent and watch TV.
Well, if it isn't Smokey the Bear. I hope you're not planning on wearing that this evening.
I was thinking of pajamas, actually.
Chortle, chuckle, and guffaw. Well, I see George built himself a study.
What are you doing here?
Katherine, have you forgotten caucus?
Caucus?
Consumer Advocate Committee on Supermarket Safety? You are tonight's chairperson of the caucus.
I'm chairing the Caucus Caucus?
Of caucus.
Time just holding the line, never getting caught up. Love was never brought up, it's not the thing to do. Ooh, it was you, then came you. You made me leap without taking a look. Ooh, it was you, then came you.
You reeled me right in line, sinker and hook.
Never thought forever was the best I could do.
Welcome to a very special podcast. This is the podcast where we get together and talk about your favorite shows of yesteryear and then just discuss them over a glass of wine. It's more like a bottle though. Like 97% of the time it's wine for me. I think except for once. I think I had like a sip of beer. In my mind, I'm always like, oh, we need to talk about the wine that I'm drinking because I feel like it has potential to be part of the story.
Yeah.
And I forget it pretty much every single time.
Yeah, it's kind of like we start drinking and we start talking. We kind of forget about that part.
Well, you'll be surprised how quick it goes out of your mind. I don't know if anyone listening has ever podcasted before, but you kind of lose yourself. It's like that. Is that an Eminem song, Lose Yourself?
Yeah, I was going to say, do I have to do a search to see if I can get that to stream for you right now?
Your mom's spaghetti? Isn't that a part of this?
Oh gosh, I haven't heard it in ages.
But tonight I'm drinking the Francis Coppola Diamond Collection, the Ivory label of their Cab Sauv 2012.
Wow, you're going fancy.
It was like $10. I imported it from the south. So I picked up a bottle and I transported it across state lines. I don't think that's a felony, but I made it seem like it was.
I don't really think it is. If it is, I would be in so much trouble for all those nights I went to Mexico for alcohol in college.
Wait, you went to college near the Mexico border?
New Mexico.
Oh, New Mexico.
There's a whole state between Colorado and the Mexican border.
That's why I was a little confused. I was like, I didn't think that it kind of rested upon the border. Did you live in like a dry town?
Well, in Colorado, you used to be that you couldn't buy any kind of alcohol on Sunday unless you were actually at a bar or a restaurant.
Yeah, it was like that in Massachusetts, but they changed that law like conveniently the year I turned 21.
Yeah, see, they changed it a few years ago in Colorado, but then we moved to Minnesota, and I think you can't buy alcohol on a Sunday.
You can't buy alcohol on a Sunday there?
Nope.
Can you like cross into the Canadian border, or are you like too far away from it?
I think I could just cross the river into to Wisconsin, and I'd be fine.
Wisconsin. Is it like a ferry ride?
It's like I drive over a bridge. The river's like a mile away from me.
Sometimes I forget there's bridges.
Yeah, there are these like amazing innovations where they like have this steel that goes over water. And some of them can even support a train.
Yeah, it amazes me. I still get creeped the fuck out when I drive across a bridge because I'm just thinking like I'm just driving on asphalt on top of like a steel structure. Like, why doesn't the asphalt give out? Because sometimes if you drive under a bridge and you look up, you just see like road. You don't really, there's not much there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It still creeps me out to this day. I don't think I'd ever be able to drive across the Golden Gate Bridge unless I had like 5 glasses of wine from Napa Valley. Which I guess is kind of close, right?
I don't know.
I mean, within a few hours, I imagine. It's not like that.
Well, yeah, within a few hours.
Yeah, so you can just grab a few bottles, and then when you get close to the Golden Gate Bridge, you just pour a few glasses, get yourself a little like warm and toasty, and then you just drive over the bridge and pretend you're in the Full House theme song. But we didn't introduce ourselves yet.
See, I didn't even say what I was drinking.
Oh yeah,
I am drinking Smirnoff Ice Green Apple Bite.
malt bev.
Yep, I'm keeping it classy.
Did you get a 6-pack?
I had like a 12-pack variety. I bought it in Wisconsin.
What did you on Sunday?
Actually, a really long time ago. I don't remember when we bought these.
All right, so I'm Patrick M. Dunn. You might remember me from the previous 10 episodes, maybe. We probably hit double digits.
This would be the 11th episode.
Okay, so we're preteens. We're just starting to get bitchy,
A little cranky.
like we hate our parents. For you, you're starting to notice boys for the first time.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so this week's episode, we decided to watch the classic 1980s sitcom Webster. If you were a child in the 80s, doesn't matter what year you're born, you know this show because it was like a syndicated dreamboat, basically, is what it was. It was like the first show that aired after the cartoons ended.
Probably aired with Charles in Charge.
Probably it was like a duo.
Yeah.
All right, so Webster begat in 1983. It originally aired on ABC for the first few
Yes.
years. Then it got swifted over to first-run syndication.
Yes.
Which is weird because I think around this time, a lot of shows went to syndication.
Yeah, the other notable shows that went to syndication were, of course, Charles in Charge, Too Close for Comfort, It's a Living.
Mama's Family?
Oh, yes, Mama's Family.
All right, so they will release a show on network television. It'll struggle for a few years and then just be whisked away like it's Old Yeller.
Well, here's the thing, though. Webster didn't really struggle until the 4th season. It was a hit the first 3 seasons. And even then, in the 4th season, it wasn't, awful. It wasn't, anything compared to today's ratings, Still did well, and that's why they decided to take it into syndication, because they realized a bunch of little kids like us loved Webster. We were all about the Webster.
Well, I think what it is, you want to hit that 100 episode mark.
Mm-hmm.
And typically, season 4 is the 100th episode.
They did. They reached the 100th episode in season 4, but they just decided they wanted to keep going for 2 more seasons.
All right, so let's get into the basic premise of the show.
This couple, George and Katherine, who meet on a cruise, decide to get married on the cruise, and then start their lives together. But, there's a little issue. One night, George, years ago, promised his best friend from when he was in the NFL that he would take care of his kid if anything ever happened to him. And sadly, both parents died. So this little boy shows up looking for his new parents, and it's like, wait, what? We just got married, now we have a little black boy?
Is it ever established how Webster's parents die? Is it...
I watched the first episode months ago. I don't remember. I want to say a car accident or something. It was just something freak and random.
it wasn't Bruce Wayne-ish, they were murdered by a clown or something in an alleyway outside a theater?
No, I don't believe so.
So it was something more realistic, like a car accident or a house fire, maybe, perhaps. So George, his last name is Papadopoulos or Papadopoulos. All right, I'm horrible at pronouncing Greek names. And he goes on a cruise, I guess by himself.
Yeah, he just goes on a cruise because he's a 45-year-old guy.
Retired NFL player.
Yeah.
Just books a trip to the Caribbean, maybe?
Actually, I think it was Greece.
Oh, was it Greece?
I think so.
He wanted to check out the homeland.
Maybe so. That would make sense.
And then he just meets this horny rich bitch, Katherine.
Yes, Katherine.
And I don't this is where the whole premise gets kind of cloudy because you really gotta break it down right here. So George Papadopoulos is on a cruise alone. He's a former NFL player, probably a party boy.
Probably,
he likes the ladies, and...
he spent a lot of years as a bachelor. He's probably used to a little love him and leave him, doing his own thing kind of thing.
He had a couple of, maybe some Mai Tais or some Long Island iced teas, whatever those, fancy, cruise ship drinks are. And he bumps into this wild lady one night, so it's Katherine. Yeah, so he bumped into Katherine. She's kind of this sassy rich bitch. She dresses nice. She's got a nice short pixie cut.
Yeah, she's always got the styling clothes that I'm just like, why are you wearing that? That doesn't look comfortable.
It's like baggy and loose. Like,
Yeah, but it was the 80s, so that was the style.
like everything that she wears, it looks like someone just took like a bed sheet, colored it, and like splashed glitter over it and like threw it over her, like sewed it up. And they're like, oh, you should wear that to the studio tonight. Like the gala. You should wear that to the gala tonight.
Yeah, they meet on this cruise. She's like very wealthy lady. She's got a nice place in society.
She's independently wealthy, I guess.
I guess so. I think she's already got like her trust fund from her father or something.
Yeah, I imagine she's a trust fund baby. That was one of the first thoughts I had, or maybe she kind of like was like the victim of a slip and fall and did like a lawsuit against like a grocery store. I don't know.
Well, that would make sense considering what her job is.
Okay, so her job is she's a consumer advocate, which we have no idea what that is.
I have no clue. I was so confused. I like went on Google and I was like, what the hell is a consumer advocate? And I got like no actual answer. There was like a website for consumer advocates, so I like went there to like see if I could figure out what the hell they were. Still no clue.
All right, so she probably like stands up for customers. She seems kind of selfish though. Like that doesn't seem like her.
Yeah, she's kind of all about Catherine. What Catherine
Yeah.
wants when Catherine wants it.
She just likes money and she just likes dick, apparently.
Yeah, apparently there have been quite a few men.
So she meets up with George Papadopoulos.
Yeah, she meets up with George Papadopoulos.
And I don't know, he must be like hung or something because she just instantly takes to him. All right, so he's Greek. Obviously, we established in our banter here. You think of like a Greek, you associate them with a god.
What a guy like Hercules.
George Papadopoulos in Webster, he like somehow tricks Katherine into marrying him like over this like 5-day cruise.
Yeah, it was like whirlwinds. Like, let's get married. Maybe he thought if he could marry her for a short while, divorce her, and get some of the money.
You know, that could have been his end game. But it all got fucked up because they get back to her penthouse in Chicago. They're about to rip off their clothes and consummate their marriage, and suddenly there's a knock at the door, and it's like, guess what? There's a black kid on your door.
It's like, here's your new kid.
And there's Webster out there like shrugging his shoulders like, eh. We're now 10 episodes into George and Katherine's marriage. It's technically still their honeymoon phase, but now they have to deal with a brown child.
Who is like the most adorable, precocious child ever.
Exactly. Like Webster, like when I rewatched the show the other night, I was like, this is the most adorable show I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's just it's like totally something you would see on the Disney Channel now.
Except it would be like a hot teen, not Webster.
No, it might still be Webster, but the parents would be younger and hotter.
Oh, like, yeah, the parents would be like 26.
Yeah.
With boob jobs. Anyway, so I always remembered Webster, always remembered them living in a swanky mansion with secret tunnels. Mm-hmm. Like, I watched this episode, I'm like, why are they living in a penthouse? And where are, like, the secret tunnels they used to crawl through? Like, I was like, was I confusing it with another show?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if you keep reading in Webster Season 2, Webster eventually burns down the penthouse by accident.
Yeah, he sets it on fire with, like, a science kit or something. Like, what is in a science kit that, like, sets stuff on fire? Is it the vinegar, the baking soda?
Yeah, because I used to have, like, you would go to, like, Toys R Us and you buy these, like, science kits, and that basically what it was. Or, like, clay, like, modeling clay.
Yeah. What was in it that set stuff on fire? That's what I want to know.
I'd like to know that, too. It could have been, like, a meth kit, maybe? I don't know. Maybe that is Katherine's secret agenda.
Predate meth a little bit?
Well, I mean, meth was always a thing. It was always there, but it wasn't as dangerous until like more recently. But you never know. I mean, it was Chicago. Chicago's a pretty rough place.
That's true. Which just leads to more questions later on. Well, actually, no. Let's start. Okay, Chicago's a dangerous place. Let's talk about the opening scene.
All right. So the show opens. Webster's in the pizza place, I guess, the Trocadero.
Yeah.
All right, so he's in a pizza place. He's wearing like a costume, like a sheriff's costume, like Woody from Toy Story kind of costume. He has like this fake star on. And I guess he's ordered like a handcuff, like a toy handcuff from like a mail order thing. And
yeah, the back of a comic book or something.
And he just randomly handcuffs an old man to a chair. And he's pretending he's like a bounty hunter. And he's like, I finally caught you. all right, just play along with me. And the old guy just goes along with it. And then like 3 seconds later, he's like, all right, I've had enough of this. Like, uncuff me. Where's the key? And Webster has this like clueless look on his face. Hold on, let me empty out the box. So he like shakes the box and like a piece of paper falls out. And he begins reading. All right, so first of all, how old is Webster?
Webster is supposed to be like 6.
All right, so he reads the letter. Like, can you read that well at 6 years old?
No, not at all.
So basically the letter is just like, due to a foreclosure at our normal office, we had to suddenly relocate to Fort Worth, Texas. And due to this sudden relocation, the key to your handcuff will arrive in your mailbox in like 4 to 6 weeks.
Meaning we didn't pay the rent in one office, so we had to move out in the middle of the night to a new office in a motel somewhere. So you might get the key eventually.
Exactly. So like we can send you a handcuff.
But we can't send you the key.
We'll send you the key in like a couple weeks. That is just like if that happened today, that would be like a lawsuit right there.
It would be blown up on Twitter within like 5 minutes.
Now, tying back to Catherine, I was like, if Catherine really is a consumer advocate, that should have been like what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Like, there is a toy handcuff company that recently just shut up their shop and moved to Fort Worth, Texas in the middle of the night.
Actually, I think it was Fort Lee, New Jersey.
Oh, was it Fort Lee, New Jersey?
I think. Who knows?
Okay, figured it was New Jersey. They moved to New Jersey in the dead of night and they send handcuffs without the key. So now there's all these tied up horny broads tied to bedposts or old men chained to chairs at the Trocadero in my own hometown, Chicago, Illinois. That would have been a good speech for Catherine, I think.
Maybe what we think a consumer advocate isn't what a consumer advocate is.
Can you ask Google what a consumer advocate is?
Let's see if Google has an answer for me this time. Okay, Google, what is a consumer advocate?
According to NACA.net, the National Association of Consumer Advocates is a nationwide organization of more than 1,500 attorneys who represent and have represented hundreds of thousands of consumers victimized by fraudulent, abusive, and predatory business practices.
Okay, so it's what we think it is.
This kind of like ties back nicely because like Webster was playing with predatory toys.
Mm-hmm.
When you also kind of look at the whole situation from afar, Webster is hanging out at a pizza place by himself, well, except for an old guy.
Yeah. He's hanging out with this old guy. Like, why is he hanging out with the old guy?
Now, I don't know. Like, initially I thought, like, maybe this pizza place is, like, in the same building that they live in.
That's what I thought, too. Or at the very least, it's, like, within the block where you feel okay letting a 6-year-old walk to.
Would you let a 6-year-old walk a block, though?
No. The thing is, we have to think about this a little differently because we're from the suburbs, you know. Parents in the cities, they kind of tend to give their children a little more room than what we probably had. But then again, we were also probably allowed to go play in the street with our friends until the streetlights came on.
That is true. And if you think about it, technically this, like, Webster wasn't even really their kid. So, like, maybe deep down they just wanted to get rid of him. Catherine and George, they're, like, early in the marriage. They're, like, completely horny for each other. They just...
Catherine tries to woo George several times in this episode.
Like, not even, like in every act. Like, there is, like, Catherine's like, George, we need to go to my room for a minute. And he's like, I don't know, like, Webb is here with us. Like... We have a 6-year-old child who can't be alone for 2 minutes.
Oh my god, if your 6-year-old can't be alone for 2 minutes.
And she's like, who cares? Let's let him go down to the pizza place down the street. He'll be fine. Like, we'll give him $6 for a cab. It was probably $6 for a cab back then.
Yeah, probably.
Alright, so then we cut to the theme song of Webster, which is a song called Then Came You, which originally was supposed to be the name of the series.
Yes, that was the second title that the series went through.
So the show is going to be called Then Came You. In real life, Alex Karras and Susan Clark, who play the parents on the show, are married in real life. And they... I guess at one point we're going to have, like, a romantic comedy series based around them.
Yeah, they wanted to do, like, a romantic comedy basically on the premise of George and Katherine meeting on a cruise, falling in love, and getting married right away. and then developing the relationship afterward.
And simultaneously, ABC struck a deal with like Emmanuel Lewis, who I guess was in like a Burger King commercial.
Yeah, he was in a Burger King commercial. The head of CBS saw him and was like, I gotta get this kid a show. But they had already picked up all the shows for the next season, so he's like, okay, where can I put this kid? Where can I insert him and make him take over? And this is the show they picked.
It's weird because it's kind of like Emmanuel Lewis is kind of like Gary Coleman-ish in a way. Like they're both small black kids who played orphans on television. So, like, do you think it was a coincidence, or do you think it just?
I think that the head of ABC at the time was like, "Ooh, different strokes. They got Gary Coleman. We got Webster. Ooh, this one has rich white people. They don't have a kid. Let's give them a kid." Let's play
like the orphan black card. All right, so there's a little bit of controversy behind this though, because the two lead actors were like completely adamant against this idea. They were like, this idea is horrible.
Yeah.
This will never work, and if it does, like, I'm going to protest it all the way. But it ended up being like a huge hit.
Yeah, it ended up as a hit, but it took a while for the cast to gel and for everybody to get along. Like, they didn't really like each other all until like season 3. That's usually about when people start hating each other.
Alex Karras just sounds like a D-bag in real life. Like, he just sounded like
I read his Wikipedia page last night. I was just like, oh my god, he was an ass.
So they basically renamed his show to Webster. Like, they just completely like took him out of the picture, made a small black kid the main character and the focus of the show and the title of the show. So that must have just made his just set him in a frenzy.
Yeah, that had to piss them off. They went to ABC, they got their show approved, they agreed to let the kid to do the changes, and then ABC is like, okay, it's all about the kid now.
And it worked. In his favor, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now moving along, so we get through the cold open. We have the theme song where Webster, it's still pictures of Webster and the family hanging out, and he's floating around on balloons.
Yeah, because he's so tiny, all these balloons are gonna lift him away.
And it's just a great screenshot, the way it works like a picture. It's like a picture show, like a moving picture show.
Yeah, it's just a slideshow.
So the show comes back. It's now it's the real start of the story. And Katherine comes home. I don't know, she was out consumer advocating somewhere.
Not checking her calendar at the office.
No. Well, she probably was just really out, just having, martinis with her friends. Is just how I picture her life.
Yeah, she's probably off at, some swanky hotel restaurant, having cocktails all afternoon with the other girls from lunch.
She's like Samantha from Sex and the City.
Yeah, pretty much. Not as sassy.
And she has this, beautiful penthouse in Chicago. She takes care of it very nice. She's probably had it for years. And she comes home and there's a fucking teepee in her living room. She takes one look at the teepee and she's like, Webster, are you fucking kidding me? And the teepee doesn't talk. It just gets up and moves. It walks. You see,
yeah, because that's not creepy.
You see shoes and the teepee walks across the living room and she's like, Webster, get out of there right now. And then Webster comes walking into the room. He's not in the teepee. And he's like, what's up, Katherine?
No, it would be, what's up, ma'am?
Oh, ma'am, is that what he calls her?
Yeah, that's what he calls her, because it sounds like mom.
So, because he doesn't call them mom and dad. He calls them ma'am and George, right?
Yeah, which if I was George, I'd be kind of a little pissed that I don't get, some familial title if Katherine's going to be ma'am.
Yeah, and you know what? We need to, rewind back a little bit, too. Hold on. So you're Katherine. You just met this guy on a boat?
Yeah.
And now he, is suddenly, the foster parent of an orphan?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I'd be like, Jerry, call my lawyer, get some annulment papers. I did not sign up for this. I was not thinking on that vacation.
But she stuck around with it. Now she has to deal with fucking teepees in her living room.
Yeah, in her nicely decorated penthouse.
Now she sees that it's not Webster in the teepee, and he's like, who's in there? And Webster walks up. He, opens the flap, the teepee flap, and you see, an ass. You see, a man's ass. He's like, oh, it's George.
God, I hope it's George.
He's like, I know that ass. It's George. Which is just really weird right there. So then, like, George breaks out of the teepee, like, because for some reason he was stuck in there until, like, Webster came along.
Well, because, like, he went in there and then he couldn't get out because it's so small. Because it's made for somebody Webster's size, not a former NFL football player George's size.
I don't know. I kind of think he was doing some suspicious things in there, to be honest with you.
Who knows? I don't want to go there.
It's basically like a living room and a bedroom. Maybe two. Is it 2 bedrooms?
Yeah, it's 2 bedrooms.
So there's not a lot of, like, you don't have a lot of alone time in there. And, like, you know, now all of a sudden he has a teepee.
Yeah, that's like the size of my living room, my apartment.
All right, so masturbatory jokes aside, George comes out of the teepee, and we learn that they built a teepee because it's the first time Webster's having a sleepover with the boys, like the guys, his friend. They don't make it. The guys don't make an appearance in this episode.
No, they don't. You hear a lot about them, but you don't see them.
But he was stoked to have a sleepover with the guys, but he was worried that they would make fun of him because he was sleeping. He still sleeps with a teddy bear.
There's nothing wrong with sleeping with a teddy bear.
No, but I mean, I guess if you're like a black orphan, you're probably gonna get made fun of.
Yeah, you know what? When I had slumber parties, I don't think I slept with my teddy bear.
Yeah, and especially if you're a black orphan, like the guys are coming over, that's the first thing they're going to make fun of.
That's the first thing?
Yeah.
Not the white parent?
All right, maybe the second thing. That's the second thing they're going to...
Native American culture with a teepee?
Yeah, do you think the kids are too young to, like, say your stepmom is hot or anything like that?
Probably.
Like, that hasn't hit their hemisphere yet? They're like, hey, can we go, like, watch your stepmom in the shower, Webster?
Is that what you were doing when you were sick?
I don't think so. Maybe though. I don't know. I have to go back. I think that's more of like a puberty sleepover. Like, hey, your mom's kind of hot. Like, she kind of struts around in those shawls that are kind of they're very baggy, but you know what? Like, if the right gust of wind, you'll see everything. That's Webster the teenager years. Which I don't think the show gets to, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't.
George realizes that he's late for like a poker match.
Yeah, he's late for poker night with the boys at the pizza parlor.
The Trocadero, which it's the same like crew from the opening scene. Now, my favorite part of the episode is right here, because Katherine calls George Campfire Buns. Like, that's her pet name for him, is Campfire Buns.
I missed that when I was watching
my
it both times.
I had to watch it with the closed caption on just to make sure that I heard it right. Because she is a horny broad. She's just like, she's got her claws out. Like, and now she has this like 6-year-old kid that she didn't ask for, who is just like cock blocking her new marriage to this Greek god.
Yeah.
Who lives in her apartment. Like, she doesn't
And
know
he's
how to deal
always
with it.
there.
Yeah, she doesn't know how to deal with it. So George is basically making, like, he bails. He's like, I'm gonna go fuck this. I'm gonna go play poker. And like, now she's stuck with Webster, and they're like planning the sleepover party, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, he's worried, like what am I gonna do with my teddy bear? The guys are gonna like make fun of me. And he says something to her, like Webster says something to her, like, what did you do like the first time that you like slept with a bunch of guys?
And she like starts to answer. It was so awkward. It was a wild one.
Like, I don't know, that was like the first line that just proves that she's like some kind of harlot.
She had her wild days. Hey, she doesn't have to work. She's got money. Why not go and have some wild fun times?
Technically, she still is kind of in her wild days.
Yeah.
All right, so at this point, Catherine's assistant Jerry just comes like barging in. He's like, Katherine, we're ready for the speech tonight. I hope you're ready. And she's like, what are you talking about?
He's like the worst assistant ever.
He's like, yeah. He's like, you have to give that speech tonight. You're the consumer advocate for this whole group of people that, they're very important to you. And she's like, it's not in my calendar. And he's like, well, it's in my calendar. And she's like, well, my calendar's right here and it's not in here. And he's like, oh, I forgot to put it in your calendar.
Because we have to remember, this is 1983. It's not like it's just a quick few buttons to push on a screen to sync up calendars.
Yeah, it's not like Google Calendar.
Yeah.
But this guy was definitely like a closeted homosexual in the grand scheme.
Like, okay, here's the thing. If you were to make Webster today, he would definitely be the sassy gay best friend.
He'd snap his fingers at Katherine and be like, girl.
Those shoulder pads look fabulous on you.
But because of the time that it took place in, he is repressed. And I like to believe that he secretly did not put it in Katherine's calendar because he had a hidden agenda that he wanted to like sneak into her house at night and steal all her dresses and her clothes and go to like drag night.
Oh yeah, he probably, when she was single, probably snuck in there all the time, went through her closet, her makeup, her perfume. But now he can't because Webster's always there.
He's like, fuck. He's like, why did they bring this kid home? Actually, he's pissed because she brought George home. He's like...
Yeah, he was upset enough that she, like, ran off and married George. She's like, are you sure you want to do that, Katherine?
He's like, I had this great thing going. I used to break into her house at night. I would just, like, make up this fake event she had to go to. She would just get smashed off martinis, show up, just pretend to give a couple of speeches. She didn't realize that she wasn't speaking to, like, she was just, like, in a bar. I would try on her clothes. I would, you know, hit up the town, and then I would sneak back in and return them, and she'd never know.
She had no clue.
Now there's a black orphan, like, creeping about. And a guy, a former NFL player who could probably beat me up.
Probably.
So he plays it safe. And now she's like, oh, fuck, I have to give a speech tonight? George is out playing poker with the guys, and I'm stuck with Webster. And he's like, you gotta go give the speech. Like, these consumers, they fucking need you. They need you, Katherine.
Like, how is she supposed to give a speech that she didn't know she was giving? Like, that bothered me. It's like, what did she do? Down a martini and then just go on stage and be like, I am your consumer advocate. Tell me what your worries are and I will fix them.
But she didn't even ask what the speech was for. She's just like, oh, I have to give a speech tonight?
So, like, I feel like she just has a standard speech she gives, like, to whoever.
She just shows up. She's like, I am Katherine Papadopoulos. I am your consumer advocate. It's advocate, not advocate. It's advocate.
Advocate.
If you have trouble lurking about, you must, and I repeat, you must seek my help. Because I alone, well, my shoulder pads too, will help you for whatever ails you. She basically has a speech she has to give. She doesn't even know what it's about. And she's like, someone has to watch Webster. You'd think that she would go like, Jerry, can you watch Webster tonight?
Yeah, like, why didn't she just go, okay, Jerry, you stay with Webster. I'm going to go give the speech that I don't know anything about.
She's like, you're my assistant that I pay minimum wage. Can you just watch him for like 4 hours while I give this like haphazard speech?
Which is why he has to break into her apartment to get the dresses.
He's like, sorry, Katherine, I have to go out tonight. Where do you have to go, Jerry? He's like, I cannot tell. Meanwhile, he's like, RuPaul. No, she's like, I don't know if I'm ready for the speech. And he's like, you have to. It's going to be a full house tonight. And she's like, oh, yeah. Speaking of full house. And then it like cuts to the poker game.
So let's bundle Webster up and take him to Trocadero. Make him hang out with all these creepy old guys.
Yeah, she basically dressed up for this speech she had to give. Drove Webster all the way across town. Dropped him off at like a pizza place, which I guess must close early. Because
yeah, it has to close early.
Like, all right, so they play poker at the Trocadero, which is like the pizza place we were talking about from earlier. And it has to be before Webster's bedtime because he's still awake and they're there. So, like, this place just closes at like 5 o'clock for like a private poker game between like 3 people.
It doesn't sound like they all like each other very much.
No, and like Webster is like ruining everybody's hands because he's looking at their cards. And he's like, why do you have all those people who don't look like each other on your cards? And they're like, we fold.
Yeah. If I was George, I would have been happy because then you got all that money.
And then he decides to let Webster play a hand, and Webster puts like all the chips in.
And then George screws it up. George is like, what? You don't have anything. So the cranky old guy that Webster handcuffed earlier is like, well, I call.
And then, all right, so this is the cast of characters that are at this poker game. So it's George, the creepy old guy from like the cold opening, and then the guy who owns the Trocadero. So he's the most like stereotypical Italian guy you'll ever see. Has like this thick, bushy mustache. He looks like the guy from the pizza box, like the takeout pizza box. Mm-hmm. Like every pizza box has this guy on it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, and he's the owner, I guess, of the restaurant.
Yeah, he is.
So it's just the 3 of them. This guy closes down his restaurant, like his business, just to play like poker with 3 other guys. And then some small child just gets thrown into the mix, and he's like screwing the game up.
Yeah, a small child clinging his teddy bear.
So then the night ends. The night ends and they go home. George packs up Webster, takes a cab, Which now is kind of weird because earlier we were like talking about like what if it was a block away?
Yeah, like we don't know how far away this place is, but if it's far enough away that you have to take a cab, why the hell are you letting your kid hang out there by themselves?
And a 6-year-old, by the way, to boot.
Yeah, he's a 6-year-old. Like, okay, I used to like take care of my boss's kid, like especially their like young daughter who like was 6, and she was definitely not going and hanging out at pizza places. She was sitting her butt down in the basement of the store, watching cartoons, coloring if I printed out her coloring sheet, or like following me around, but she wasn't like hanging out at a pizza place.
Like, do they give Webster like $10 every day? Like, you know what? After you get to school, you know, just head down to the Trocadero, handcuff some old men to some chairs, and then just like hop a cab.
That's probably what it is. It's like, okay, it's probably like on his way home from school. So they're like, okay, Webster, you go stay at the pizza place. We'll come pick you up at 5 when George is done with whatever it is George does. Because you know Catherine's going to be like out late because she's been getting drunk with the ladies who lunch.
She's getting drunk. And George is just an ex-NFL player. I don't think he does anything, to be honest with you.
No, he's a sportscaster for the local news.
They don't establish that in this episode. So basically, after he's done playing Morning Zoo, he picks up Webster from this pizza place. Well, does he pick him up, or does he do they take a cab?
I don't know. We don't know, because we don't know how far away this place is. It's so confusing.
I need to know. Like, it'll like make or break this thought that I have.
Like, I think this is the first episode where you even see this place. Like, I don't remember them hanging out in the episodes I watched before. But then again, I watched 10 episodes in one night a few months ago, so.
I think it would stand out, though, because this was pretty prominent to the Trocadero.
Yeah.
Like, they said the name, the Trocadero. Like, you know how, like, Three's Company has the Regal Beagle?
Yes, I love the Regal Beagle.
So, like, I'm thinking, like, oh, the Trocadero. Like, this must be, like, their hangout. It's their bar.
I think this is, like, the first episode where it, like, is established. Because, like, when I was reading the Wikipedia, it sounded like they hang out there a lot, but we hadn't seen it before.
And Alex Karras is probably like, George needs a hangout because this kid is a fucking downer. Like, he's ruining my show.
Like, let's show that he's still an adult. He has friends outside of Katherine and Webster.
So, basically, after this poker game, George takes a cab home with Webster falls asleep at the poker game, right? Doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's clinging his teddy bear. He's clinging Teddy.
Like, they establish that he loves this teddy bear. And now it's the next morning all of a sudden.
It's not even the next morning. It's like that night. Like, George has gotten Webster home. Webster's in bed. Katherine shows up, and then Webster's like, "Where's Teddy?" Because he can't sleep without Teddy. And George is like, "Oh, we probably just left him at the Trocadero. We can go back tomorrow morning. I promise you can sleep tonight without him. You'll be fine." And then Webster, like, mopes off to his room because he can't sleep without Teddy. And Catherine's like, "You left him?" And George is like, "I think I lost him in the cab."
All right, but then the same night, Webster doesn't end up sleeping alone. He sleeps in the same bed as Katherine and George.
Yeah, because Catherine's trying to, like, woo George.
Because Katherine is horny. Like, she's like, I gave the most amazing speech tonight, and that is what inspires me. Maybe that's why Katherine was on the cruise. Maybe, like, she gives speeches on a cruise.
Maybe.
That could be her thing. Maybe we just crack the code there. Like, and that's what, like, makes her tick. That's her, like, her passion. She's like, I just love to give inspirational speeches to consumers. And maybe George was a consumer. She's like, George, consume me. Consume me, George.
But guess who pops up in the bed?
Webster. He, like, crawls out of the sheets. He's like, hi, guys.
Does Webster get into that bed, into that room, without George or Katherine noticing?
Yeah, like, I feel like you would know if something was in your bed.
Yeah, I know when my boyfriend's in the bed. I know when my teddy bear Dave's is in the bed. If there was something else in the bed, I would know it.
I don't know. You might not know until you adopt a black orphan. That could be, like, a learning experience.
I guess it could be.
So, Webster's in the bed, and they're like, we have to like deal with Webster tonight, but who knows what it's gonna be like because the teddy bear is missing. Like we told him it was at the Trocadero, but it could be in a cab somewhere. Like it could be in a heroin addict's arms.
In Chicago. Anywhere.
Anywhere. Is this where it cuts to like the middle of the night?
This is where it cuts to like the next day when they don't have Teddy back yet, but Catherine's like, oh, George went to go get him. And then George comes home soaking wet.
Oh, there was a rainstorm?
Yeah, there's like a rainstorm. George has been like all over Chicago looking for the bear, and he's just drenched. Oh, this is like after like the drunk guy shows up.
All right, so first off, if you were George and you had to like, would you just go to the toy store and just buy a new teddy bear?
Well, okay, to be fair, Teddy has some very prominent wear and tear.
He does,
You know.
but you can buy
If you can find a bear that's similar, and you can find a way to like make it look like the bear. Kids know though. Kids know the difference.
I guess you're right, because when I was a child, I had a Roger Rabbit doll, and my cousin cut his head off with scissors.
Oh my god, that's awful!
And not only that, but he took the cotton out of his head, so he was just like that limp fabric.
Oh.
And then my grandmother had to stuff him back together, and it was not the same. It looks like Frankenstein. It was like Franken Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, I had a teddy bear when I was a kid. I actually lost it when I moved to Colorado. And, like, if anything, like, if there had been something different about him, I would have known. Because I usually, like, his stitches came undone at the wrist. It looked like he had, like, slit wrist. So I put Band-Aids on it. Because, like, his crushed walnuts that was, like, his stuffing would, like, come out. But then my dad didn't bring him to Colorado when we moved.
Oh, bad move. Dick move.
Yeah, Dad's still not forgiven about that. That comes up every once in a while if we have a fight. When you didn't bring Blackie!
His name was Blackie?
Yes, his name was Blackie. He's like a black bear.
Oh. Alright, so where are we in Webster's...
The drunk guy shows up.
Alright, George is out looking for Teddy.
Yes.
He's on the town. Webster's in the living room, worried. He's like pacing the room. And there's a knock at the door. Because I guess George put a sign up at the Trocadero to missing teddy bear, which is like the stupidest sign you could put up.
Like, apparently while he's at the Trocadero, he didn't decide to look around for the teddy bear.
No, he just made a sign and like hung it up there.
But this guy's there, he's drinking, he sees the sign, he's like, oh, I have a teddy bear. Maybe I can get $100.
And instead of just saying like, just notify the owner of the Trocadero, here's my address. Like, come to my house with the teddy bear.
Apparently they don't have a doorman or a buzzer system in this swanky penthouse.
So Katherine is like the richest bitch in Chicago. She lives in this like Don Draper-esque swanky penthouse, and she has no doorman. So this guy basically, like anybody can just get free range of this apartment complex.
Yeah.
And he's drunk. He probably was a crackhead, because crack was big in the 80s.
He's definitely an alcoholic.
Definitely an alcoholic. And he finds a purple, like, Care Bear kind of doll. Like, that was missing, like, limbs.
Yeah.
And, like, the eye button.
And looked like it had probably just been sitting in a pile of filth for God only knows how long.
Exactly. And he knocks on Catherine's door, and she, like, answers the door, and he offers her initially the doll for, like, $100.
Yeah.
Then she talks him down to, like, $50.
Yeah.
And then, again, she talks him down to, like, $25. And then she ends up slamming the door in his face. And then George comes in soaking wet, carrying the doll, and he's like, I just bought this doll for $50. And she's like, what? I just talked the homeless guy down for $25. Like,
Yeah.
So they tried to pass, like, off a purple doll. So back to my original thought, like, why didn't George just go and buy, like, another brown doll instead of, like, a purple doll? Because he paid $50 for it.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it was the wear and tear. Maybe it was like, oh, well, Teddy, like, did acid and just, like, lost his mind.
Teddy went on a shopping spree to the plastic surgeon, and he's gotten refreshed.
And you know what? Webster probably would have bought it.
He probably would have.
And instead, they're like, all right, Webster, we couldn't find Teddy. And Webster establishes, like, earlier in the episode that he can't sleep alone. He says Teddy can't sleep alone, but he really means that he can't sleep alone. He, like, slyly hides it. Well, I mean, I guess if you're an orphan, you don't want to sleep alone. Like,
Yeah, and, like, The teddy bear is probably like the last thing he has from his parents, so...
So George and Katherine get this idea. They're like, we're going to trick Webster into sleeping alone tonight. So, like, let's have, like, a fake sleepover on the couch.
Well, they were all like, you'll sleep in your bed alone, and then they're all out on the couch.
Yeah, I didn't get that
Watching
part.
the little portable TV. Okay, this kind of bugged me. Like, they just have this portable little TV as, like, their TV. They've got, like, money. You're telling me George didn't have, like, the biggest TV he could get in 1983? Come on.
Maybe they weren't big TV watchers.
He works in television. I could see Katherine not being a big TV watcher, but maybe, I guess it just didn't go with the aesthetic of the living room.
She's like, you know what, George? Jerry says that this TV is tacky. I think it's tacky also.
By the way, George, have you seen my blue dress? I could have sworn it was in my closet.
My blue dress is missing, George. Find it, along with Teddy, if you get the chance. Meanwhile, like, Jerry's, like, out, like, running around town. He's like, eee!
Trying to find his recently discontinued mascara.
All his gay friends are like, do you think you can get that in a large? And he's like, maybe I'll have to feed Katherine some more muffins, and then I might be able to. Alright, so they trick Webster into sleeping alone that night. So, like, we're gonna have a sleepover party. Well, wait, hold on. Never mind. I don't get it. Wait, so they want Webster to sleep alone.
Yes.
And he falls asleep in his bed initially, but they bring him out to the living room?
No, they fell asleep in the living room. Like, they must have been watching TV. Started the broadcast day with the national anthem when George turns off the TV.
Alright, so to recap, so they trick Webster into sleeping alone, so they make him fall asleep on the couch, and they kind of like linger around, but they end up falling asleep on the couch at the same time as Webster.
Yeah.
And they end up waking up like 5 minutes before he does.
Well, they wake up. George is already awake. George didn't fall asleep. Catherine's asleep. Webster's snoring.
Loudly.
Yeah. And he had complained about George and Katherine snoring. Here he is going...
He's like sawing logs.
Yeah. And then Katherine and George go to get coffee because it's 5:30. Why not just leave the kid there on the couch? Why be awake?
So Catherine's like, fuck, we almost made it the whole night with Webster sleeping alone, but we fell asleep accidentally. George is like, you might have fallen asleep, but I didn't. I was up all night masturbating.
God! God! Patrick!
And Catherine's like, all right, well, wait, who had the idea? Was it George? He's like, wait, I have an idea. He's like, let's pretend that Webster was alone all night.
No, that was Katherine. Catherine's like, wait a minute. Webster doesn't have to know he didn't sleep alone. But then George, like, they go to wake up Webster and be like, hey, you did it. And George is just, like, selling it too hard. Like, you're all alone. Like, it was like a part of a creepy movie where they're like, you're all alone. Catherine's like, George, come on.
Webster's like, really? Really? I slept alone? Meanwhile, it's 5:30 a.m. and suddenly there's like the doorbell rings or there's a knock at the door.
There's like a really light knock on the door. Like, you don't really hear it.
And Catherine's like, should I get it? Should I get the door? And George is like, yeah, I guess why not? I mean, we live in a safe apartment. It's not like there's going to be a crackhead outside trying to sell you a teddy bear.
Yeah, and it's 5:30 in the morning. It's probably something harmless. It's probably just Girl Scouts with cookies.
Yeah. So they don't have a peephole in the apartment. Like, it's not like you can look like for a peephole and be like, okay.
There's no safety measures.
No. So he just like opens the door, and luckily it's not a murderer. It's the guy, the owner of the Trocadero.
Yes.
What's his name? Did they say his name in the episode? I can't remember.
They did, but you know what? I didn't write it down.
I didn't either, because it seemed not important.
He seemed not important. We had to talk about George, Katherine, Webster, Jerry, Teddy.
The mustached Italiano is at the door, and he is wearing his pizza apron, his like chef hat, and they're like, hey, mustache Italiano guy. They're like, what are you doing here at 5:30 a.m.? He's like, well, I was just at the pizza place, and I was like up to open for the day, and I just thought I had to come by here because I have a surprise for you. Meanwhile, it's like, what kind of pizza place opens at 5:30 in the morning? Actually, probably...
Wait, are we sure it's a pizza place?
I studied the background of this episode, and they showed like the mozzarella like cheese shaker. Like I was looking in the background, and it really looks like a pizza place to me. Like
Okay. Yeah. I was like, diner? What is it?
But I mean, it was 5:30 when he knocked at the door at their like condo. It would have been much earlier when he was actually at the pizza place.
Like, I think he said he got there at like 5 and he was doing his prep work, looked up, and then saw it staring at him.
I worked at a pizza place when I was a teenager, and we opened at like 11:30 for the day. Like that's like when we opened to the public.
Yeah, when I worked at a burrito place. I want to say we opened at like 11, maybe 10:30, but not like 5 o'clock in the morning.
How early did you have to report to work though? Because we didn't have to be there till like 11 at the like 10:45, 11 at the latest.
Okay, well here's the thing. The place I worked, you pretty much worked alone. So if I had a lot of prep, I might go in a little bit early. But like I'd probably like, okay, if I had to open at 10, I'd probably be in at like 9:30. And even then, that's mostly to go in, turn on the rice cooker, the grill, all the crap that make sure the water hasn't frozen because it was an old building and I had the water freeze one day and I couldn't even open because my pipes were like frozen. They didn't come on until like a half hour before I was supposed to leave.
So like we opened like 11:30. So you had to be there at least like a half hour early to turn on the pizza oven. Like the closer from the night before did most of the prep work, like chopped up all the tomatoes, got the sauce ready. Like you know what, there really wasn't that much prep work. Like it basically was just turning on the pizza oven is like really
when
all you
I
had to
worked
do.
at like the burrito place and like when I worked at Subway, it was usually like the morning crew that did most of like the prep.
This guy was at work at like 5 a.m. getting the pizza, unless he like served breakfast. Like we don't know. Like they didn't establish it.
No. We don't know how far away this place is from the building. We don't know what they serve. We don't know a lot about this place except that Webster hangs out there with the old guy.
And he just happened to find the teddy bear, and he's like, you know what? I have to go right this minute, like this second. At 5:30 in the morning, I have to show up at Katherine and George's house with a teddy bear.
Yeah.
Because
I can't call, but I'll show up.
Yeah, it's all like, you know what? Maybe wait till like 9 a.m. when they might be awake. Because Katherine doesn't really do anything. She advocates at night.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'll let her wake up for a little bit. It's like, no, let's fucking knock on the door at 5:30 in the morning.
Because, normal people are awake at 5:30 in the morning.
So, now that Webster has managed to sleep the whole night without Teddy, he's like, you know what? I don't fucking need Teddy anymore. He's like,
see ya, Teddy.
He's like, see ya. He's like, I got new things to do. The guys are gonna fucking love me now. I don't sleep with Teddy. I sleep by myself, biatch.
I am a man.
So now, like, Webster's like, you know what? He's like, I'm gonna go back to bed. And Katherine and George are like, oh my god, like, yes. Like, this is our time. This is our, like, prime time.
Katherine's like, yes, we get to woo.
She's like, fucking finally. So they're in their room. Like, she's about to, like, slip off the negligee. And then Webster walks in. He's like, wait a second.
And they're just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. What the hell now, kid?
He's like, now that I can sleep alone, he's like, Teddy needs to be, like, broken in. So I'm going to go sleep alone in my bed, but you guys can keep Teddy company. And he, like, throws Teddy in the bed. He, like, walks into the room. George and Katherine look at each other and they're like, thank God.
Well, this is after George asks, are we a threesome still? I'm just like, oh my god.
But there was a weird connotation, like, are they going to do something with the teddy bear now, though?
Who knows? They're so horny.
Like, well, because technically they're still in their, like, honeymoon phase. They have to deal with, like, a 6-year-old black kid.
Like, there's this child who keeps interrupting them every time they try to woo.
Like, it's such a hassle for them. Like, that's why if I was Katherine, I would just be like, you know what? I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, I literally could just give you both, like, a meal just to get you out of my life.
Yeah, it's like, okay, see ya. This should take care of you.
It's the early 80s. She probably could find, like, another actor or another sports figure. Like,
Probably, no problem. She just needs to go on another cruise.
yeah, like, there's nothing special about George. He's a washed-up NFL player.
Who maybe works in TV. Occasionally. It doesn't seem like he's there that often.
Is it radio or TV?
It's TV.
Oh, so he's, like, on the news, kind of, maybe?
Yeah. He's like the evening news sports guy or something.
And it's like 80s news, so this is like Anchorman era news.
Yeah.
So that is the Webster teddy bear scare episode in a nutshell, basically. But other than that, I thought the episode was adorable.
It was cute. It was like cheesy, cute. I totally watched this as a kid.
Oh yeah, it made me want my own black orphan. Like I'm gonna go to the orphanage tomorrow and just be like, can I have that one over there with the teddy bear?
That's not how it works. It's not like you can just pick one up on the street like Mr. Drummond.
All right, so that was Webster's teddy bear scare. And until next time.